We're in the run-up to the general election of 2010 and we're speaking this morning to Dr. Donald Boyd. Donald is the parliamentary candidate for the Scottish Christian Party representing the area of Inverness, Nairn, Badenoch and Strathspey. Hello Donald.
Hello Colin, good to speak to you.
Yes, and you too. Now, this is your first time as a parliamentary candidate?
Yes Colin, things have reached such a low pass in the country that I've been constrained to stand to get a Christian voice into politics.
So do you feel that there's an opportunity here for your party?
I think so. In this area, the current MP is Danny Alexander, who's responsible for the manifesto of the Liberal Democratic Party, and although they call themselves Liberal and are running on a ticket of fairness, their policies are far from liberal and rather more interfering with the consciences of Christians. There's nothing terribly fair about two women in a civil partnership having tax breaks, but two elderly spinster sisters who have lived together in the same house for 50 or 60 years not having the same breaks. And we need to get a Christian voice which will highlight these matters.
So are you saying that the legislation hasn't been clearly thought through?
It hasn't. What's happening is that it's not whether I give offence, but whether you take offence is what matters. And this is a completely unworkable. And we've seen that, for example, in the street preacher in Glasgow last month who was fined £1,000, not because he gave offence, but because people took offence. I may say something that is objectively factual, such as quoting what the Bible says about something, but then if the other person takes offence at that, I have broken the law. What it's going to do is a lot of civil unrest, because it's going to be the people that can shout loudest and get the best lawyers that are going to win the argument. That's not a way for our society to go. We've seen it already. There's been many cases in the news. Just recently we had a Christian counsellor who fell foul of the law, and the judge in the Court of Appeal said that religion, I can't remember the exact words, but he did say that it was an irrational and discriminatory basis upon which to be forming decisions. That's one of the reasons why we need a Christian voice back in public affairs.
What other areas of policy would you seek to influence, Donald, as a Scottish Christian Party?
Well, most people know that education is very important for your future generation, and we are growing a generation of young people who are unsure of what their personal worth is. And you see that when I'm in street pastors and I see the young girls coming out of clubs at 3 o'clock in the morning, the worse for drink, and we know all about the binge culture and the concerns that come with that, the immorality that comes in the back of that. A lot of this drinking is for young people trying to have a sense of self-worth and confidence. They try to get their confidence by taking drink. Now, if we had Christian values being taught properly in our schools, they would have that confidence put into them, that sense of self-worth put into them. They wouldn't need to turn to alcohol to give them the confidence to go out and to speak to people and get on in life. And many of these young people, of course, are starting off on a pathway which leads to their own disadvantage at a very vulnerable stage in their lives, which is why we need proper Christian values being taught in our schools once more.
Now, on the big issues, Donald, of the day, education, social welfare, health service, the economy, what would be the Scottish Christian Party's view on these bigger issues?
Well, evidently we think that government is too big, that we think that we can't afford the welfare benefits we currently have. Everybody knows that there's going to have to be cuts in public services, welfare, and each political party is trying not to say how much needs to be cut. The reality is that we would need to look at what is on offer after this election comes along to see which of these parties is going to best suit our agenda. The quick and short way of finding out our policies in these things is to look at our manifesto. The manifesto is available for download, people to read on our Highlands website. That is highlandscp.org, where people can read the manifesto for themselves on these various areas.
Now, a big issue, Donald, and certainly in recent years has been the environment, global warming and all the rest of it. What would be your view on these things?
Christian stewardship naturally makes us interested in our environment. We are to have a concern for man and beast and for our environment. Of course, we see it as God-given. On the matter of global warming, people ask the question, is it man-made or is it not? I would like to draw their attention to the fact that there are some positive things can come out of the whole of this debate. The way I look at it is that this is God's way of knocking some heads together, God's way of knocking some international heads together. The countries that would not speak or talk or act together are now being forced to speak and act and talk together, and that's a good thing. That's good for the future of our planet. It's a pity that it's got to come to this sort of state to get them to talk to one another, but that's a good thing.
Now, on big issues, Donald, there are a limited number of solutions. I take it the Scottish Christian Party would be prepared to work with other parties to resolve these things?
Exactly, Colin. We believe in fixing solutions. We're fixers rather than complainers. We'd like to think that we have sensible ideas and that other parties will indeed be interested in hearing these.
Now, you're standing as a candidate for the Scottish Christian Party, Donald. Some people might say that that's a wasted vote.
Yes, many people do say that. I meet them on the street and that's what they say. It doesn't take me long to convince them that the person who doesn't vote is a person who's wasting his vote. That politicians look at and count every vote, and where a person votes, the other political parties take very close note. What we think is with the Green Party, the Green Party tends to have peaked because the other parties have taken on green issues. Now, if we want the other parties to take on Christian issues, then we need a Christian party with a Christian voice. The other parties will count every vote that goes to the Christian party. They will take note of it, and they will notice the vote of every Christian going to the Christian party. In the European election last year, we got 250,000 people voting as their first vote for a Christian voice. That is just a few years after the creation of the Christian Party, and we have already got some councillors in Wales. The first Christian councillor was in Wales. Within 9 months we got another Christian councillor in the very same council, so we must be doing something right.
Okay.
In the Highlands here, we within 4 months of campaigning in the Holyrood election, we overtook 10 other parties which were already in existence before us. We did that within 4 months.
So, Donald, you're saying that a vote for you is not a wasted vote, something can be achieved through it?
Exactly, Colin. I am in it to win it, and I would like to think that with a good push from the Highlands, they can get a new, fresh, vigorous voice promoting a better vision for Britain, and that voice will be heard in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Donald. All the best in your campaign.
Thank you, Colin.